who are other investors that you say that are making a name currently for themselves?
Well, I think Dataroma is a good place to look. It's a good website. It gives you a good list of investors. I think that there are a bunch of names. I think if you just on Twitter and follow certain feeds and such, I think it's the usual suspects. So Josh Tarasoff is a good guy, and so I think there's a RV Capital is I think in Switzerland. Rob Vinall, I think his name is. So there are a bunch of people like that who are pretty good to talk to.
Hey guys, welcome back. That small clip you watched was from a recent interview with Mohnish Pabrai over on the Wall Street Lab YouTube channel. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Definitely recommend going over and checking out the full video. It's around an hour long, covers off on many sort of different topics. But in today's video, we're going to be sort of featuring the two investors that he mentioned at the end of the video that are worthy of sort of tracking and sort of following to see what they're doing within their portfolios. And that was Josh Tarasoff and Rob Vinall. So in today's video, we're going to open up Dataroma, have a quick look over both their portfolios, see what current positions they have within their portfolio. We're only going off Q3, but hopefully over the next month we should have Q4 results coming in as well to see what they've been doing over the most recent quarter. Let's jump in and have a quick look over some of Josh's holdings that he has within the portfolio. So before we jump into it, this is Josh's website for the fund that he manages, which is Greenlea Capital. Very basic website here. Like this is something you would see maybe back in the early 2000s sort of thing. So it's very basic, has very limited information on it, hasn't spent any money on marketing, which is something that he mentioned here with an interview that he did last year. Josh launched his fund in 2006 with $2.3 million in assets under management, where it's just him, and he was no proactive marketing. He remains the only investment person today and still has no formal office, running it out of his bedroom essentially. Yet his partnership has been a great success, growing to over $450 million in assets under management, primarily by compounding at 17.3% net of all fees and expenses since 2006. So that's a fantastic rate of return, 17.3%. That is very hard to achieve. A lot of these big institutional funds cannot even get close to that. So this is just one guy out of his house running an exceptionally good fund. So it's definitely someone worthy that we should sort of be following a little bit. Obviously not cloning, exactly what he does, but someone, if you're looking for ideas, definitely worth checking out, I feel. This is just a great little read up on Josh as well. If you'd want to check that out, I'll leave a link to that in the description below. The second person he mentioned was Rob Vinall, which runs RV Capital. Both these funds are around the same sort of size, around that sort of 3 to 350 million. Which are good funds to sort of look at. They're not managing billions of dollars, so some of these companies, may have a bit more of an edge rather than the likes of Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway. There's only a limited amount of positions that he can take. These smaller sort of, portfolios can sort of take on some different sort of positions as well. Rob Vinall, I have looked at Rob Vinall in the past, only briefly, but also, seems like another good investor that we should be tracking and following as well. Let's jump on over to Dataroma here to have a look at Josh's portfolio. If you haven't used Dataroma before, highly recommend it. Gives you a very good, clean snapshot of a lot of these investors that we like to sort of track and follow, of what they've been doing in their most recent quarters, coming through from the 13 Fs. So we can see actually both these funds are extremely concentrated. Josh only has 9 positions, and this is of Q3 2021. Like I said earlier, we should be getting the Q4 results over this next month, so that will be good. And just having a very quick look over his portfolio here, definitely a lot in the tech sort of space. Number one position for both these portfolios, for Josh, is CRM, so Salesforce, and this is a company I've only sort of briefly looked at. And if you're just from the outside, it does look quite expensive, but there is a lot of number of super investors that are invested with Salesforce, so I think I will do a little bit more digging on it myself. And if we look down the list, we've got Brookfield Asset Management, Spotify, which has also pulled back a fair bit recently, Chopin, I have not familiar with that company at all. Amazon, everyone's familiar with Amazon, which has recently pulled back as well. Netflix has obviously pulled back a lot recently. Also Twitter, Google, and HubSpot. HubSpot I personally use for our website in Japan, which is quite a good platform, just using the free version, and it's a company I've never looked at as well. So there we have, that's Josh's Q3 13F there, and we can see in that he was adding to his Salesforce position, which is currently 22.16%. So he obviously has a high conviction within this company, and he was buying it, when it was trading at a lot higher than what it is currently today. Current price is around that $215 by the looks of things. 52-week low of $201 and the 52-week high of $311. So that is Josh's portfolio. Let's move over and have a quick look at Rob Vinall's. So here we have Rob Vinall for RV Capital. He runs an extremely concentrated portfolio with only 4 positions. Total portfolio value coming in at $344 million. And there we have Salesforce coming in as the second largest position within the portfolio at 23.43% of the portfolio. So he was adding to that in Q3 as well. Be interesting to see what they've been doing in Q4. Have they still been adding as the price has been pulling back? Facebook and Wix, and at the top of the list we've got Credit Acceptance Corp, which I'm not familiar with at all. Very familiar with Facebook. Wix, not so much. I've looked at their platform before when I was building a website, but didn't personally use Wix. If we just quickly have a look at Salesforce, obviously both these guys have pretty high conviction in it. See who else holds Salesforce as well. There's a couple of familiar names on the list that you're probably familiar with as well. So at the top of the list we've got Rob Vinall, Josh Tarasoff coming in at number 2 with Greenlea, and then Chuck Uckray coming in at 4th position with 4.68% of his portfolio with RV Capital Management. Now, if you're not familiar with Chuck, I have made a video recently about Chuck as well, so definitely head on over and check that out if you're not familiar with Chuck Uckray. And then if we carry on down the list, got Lee Ansley from Maverick Capital, Thomas Gaynor from Markle Asset Management. Obviously they don't have as much conviction, very small positions within their portfolio. I'd love to hear from you guys. Do you follow either Josh Tarasoff or even Rob Vinall? Like I said recently, I've only come across these guys after listening to the Mohnish Pabrai interview. But I'd love to hear from you guys. Do you follow either of these investors? And if so, what are your thoughts on their portfolio? Or even Salesforce? It's not a company I've looked in too much great detail before, but I do find it interesting that a lot of these sort of super investors do have it within their portfolio. And obviously both Josh and Rob have pretty high conviction with the company, as it's one of their sort of biggest positions within their portfolios. Anyway, with that said, that's going to wrap us up for today's video. Stay safe and we'll catch you in the next video. Cheers, guys.